I think the components that cause stress are the same then in the office. It's constant interruptions, not being able to focus on one thing and constantly getting people, you need to do this. Can you help me with that? Can you have a look here? Oh, we are having this problem here. Can you help me with that, right? If you try to focus, but you constantly get pulled here and pulled there from other people that want something from you, that's one stress factor, right? That's not fear. That's just constant interruption, which won't help you stay more focused.
So, hello Manuel, welcome to a new week, a new episode here at the Virtual Frontier, our Q&A session. Our topic today is going again back into the field of stress and how to manage stress in your workspace or business stress management strategies. And all with the goal or intention to get to a workplace where people like to go to work and have probably a happy workspace. And as always, it starts most of the time with the leader. So my question for you is, how do you stay calm and focused even when the environment, team tasks, business is not? Have you any tips and techniques around that?
I mean, I experienced in the past that being stressed won't get me any better results. So it just hurts myself, right? When I'm constantly running around like a headless chicken, always being stressed, and then things don't improve. The opposite is the case, because how I as a leader behave is how my team behaves. And just imagine if you have a lot of people that behave like you when you are stressed, that's nightmare at work, right? Everyone is stressed then. Everyone is totally, they lost their mind, because when you have stress, you cannot think clearly anymore. And then even more mistakes happen. And that's like a hamster wheel that starts turning faster and faster the more you get stressed. So that's the direct road to burnout, not just for yourself, but also for important team members. And to stay out of that, I think it's always very important to remind each other in the team to look at what is and not what you fear could happen. Because typically what causes stress is fear that something could happen. And very often it doesn't happen. So the fear is just like a big enemy that won't change anything for the better. So trying to be more analytical with the situation, looking at what is really there, not how you interpret the situation, not what could happen, but what is right now here, and then what could you do to improve that? I think that's the mindset that helped me, at least, to get rid of all fear of things that could happen in the future, to, big time, calm down, be more relaxed, more mindful, and then get better results, lead my team better, reduce stress in the entire organization.
And if you have a situation where things maybe already have happened, or as you just mentioned, maybe someone is fearful and is stressed, how I can help others in my company or in teams to become more calm or more focused, more mindful?
How is fear created? It's based on past experience that something terribly happened that was not in your influence. For example, when you get punished by your parents, when you get punished by your boss, when you cross the street and a car hits you, right? Then these are all accidents, things that were unforeseeable for you. And then in the future, you try to avoid these things. And basically that's fear, right? Whenever something happens that could be a little bit similar, immediately the fear comes up and you feel stressed because you fear that this thing can happen again. And that's the same with if you work in a project environment, right? And your project exceeded the timeline just by a day, and your client, no matter if internal or external client, totally freaked out, like the world would go down tomorrow. And that's a negative experience. So whenever your deadline could exceed just one day, you are in fear because you want to avoid that this same experience happens again. Maybe you got fired, even worse, right? So whenever a deadline is close to be exceeded and you get so stressed because of the fear, you won't hit the deadline with that behavior, right? What it needs is if you constantly look at the deadline and ask yourself, can we keep it? What's the forecast? And then what can we do today in order to improve that and hit the timeline, hit this deadline, right? Just very clear, rational, analytical, without the fear what could happen. When you don't hit the deadline, you don't hit the deadline. Then you have to deal with the consequence. But then it's as it is. Just being in fear of not catching the deadline, maybe in 2 months, won't help you get better results today. And I think that's an important leadership skill that you need to help your team to adapt when you want to have smart people that are able to handle even complex, sometimes critical situations. Then you don't want them to do this with fear and stress.
Yeah, and I think I appreciated also working with you that you're like thinking and acting always like in the present, like where you can actually move something, not like being in 2 years in the future or a month in the future where maybe some project will go sideways or off the rail. But yeah, what can you do actually today and to make the situation different? And
yeah, that's an important statement, and thanks for the appreciation. So typically there are 2 patterns of people that are stressed. There is one person that constantly lives in the past, right? Always complaining about what happened and why did this happen and why didn't you do this and why, right? They are always living in the past, never looking at the present moment, what they can do. And the others, they are always full of fear that something could happen in the future. And they are communicating like, but if we don't do this, then this happens, right? That's negative communication. That's driven by fear. When you can communicate positively, then you take away the fear from people, and communicating positively doesn't mean make things up. Like if the deadline is exceeded, it's exceeded. You cannot say, oh, we will catch it. If it's exceeded, it's exceeded, right? There is no way to catch it if it is exceeded. But how you deal with that and how you communicate if you try to find a solution, now how to deal with this situation, like contact shareholders, try to find an alternative, adjust the project plan, add action items, create new timeline, try to manifest learnings in the team so that next time we don't make the same mistakes, and so on. So there are all kinds of things that you can do right now, at this moment, in order to improve the situation or avoid the same in the future. And I think that is an important skill to be right now here. And also creating a plan is something you do right now here. But just being full of fear that something can happen in the future and not sitting down here to create a plan which increases the chance that you will succeed, right? But when you are full of stress, you cannot create a plan. How will you think clearly when you are constantly worrying about the future or regretting the past?
Are there maybe some first aid techniques or help when things get already or things have gotten already out of control? Maybe you have or you work in a team where a lot of people are thinking always in the past, and then the people are that are hanging into the future, and then you maybe have a weird situation where you need to act. What can be done in such situations?
A slap to the left, slap to the right, and then a deep breath.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think getting back to our body instead of being fearful in our brain is a good thing. You don't need to slap or punch yourself, right? But somehow try to get back in your body. Breathing is a good exercise, and try to forget and the thoughts you have, which is basically what triggers the fear, and try to come back to what is here in the present moment and get back to the opportunities you have, not the fear or the regret, right? Write down the things. Okay, what is the exact problem? Not what do you fear? What is the problem that you have and see right now? And then what are the options to solve these problems? Prioritize them, choose one and do it. I think that's a good exercise to always get back to something tangible that can help you like getting control of the situation. But the first step is, of course, to get rid of these fearful thoughts or regretful thoughts. And a good exercise is really like, physical activity, no matter which one.
So another component and thinking about possible stressors, before we had like the office as a common workspace, now work from anywhere is like really common. What are stress factors in the virtual workspace? How to detect them and probably eliminate them?
I think the components that cause stress are the same than in the office. It's constant interruptions, not being able to focus on one thing and constantly getting people, you need to do this. Can you help me with that? Can you have a look here? Oh, we are having this problem here. Can you help me with that? Right? If you try to focus, but you constantly get pulled here and pulled there from other people that want something from you, that's one stress factor, right? That's not fear. That's just constant interruption, which won't help you stay more focused. So now when you work digitally and you are not disciplined enough to switch off all your distractions, like every app that you have that shows you notifications and messages and pop-ups and makes a sound, right? That's always interruption. So in the end, your brain is like constantly getting triggered by things. It's an information overload, right? You try to focus and then ping here a message, there a voice, there a chat, then a call. I mean, your brain will look like total mess when this is your workday, that you are always online and you allow others to interrupt you constantly when they want on all channels. I think this is the biggest way to damage I don't know what gets the damage, but your well-being, because you get stressed. Maybe it damages your brain because, you train your brain to not work focused. You train your brain to be distracted. And we see that like people, they have like a consciousness or an awareness or an attention span of a fish, right? Last time when I was at the train station, I saw a businessman or a manager, was a person with a suit, 2 smartphones at the same time. I was like, whoa, I don't want to look behind this this wall into his brain, because I think it's terrible. I think it's really terrible.
Yeah. Multitasking in its full extent.
Yeah, but one smartphone is already a lot of multitasking when you see all the messages and the pop-ups there, and then you have it factored
Doubled
by 2.
Crazy.
No questions asked.
That's what we're seeing all day.
Yeah.
What can I do to become more aware of the mental state or the well-being of the people I work with in my team or in the company, especially in the context or background that we are working mostly in a virtual space or remote and hybrid, whatever. And it's maybe not so easy as it was before to see someone on the desk and get a first impression.
So I think there are a few things on different layers, right? I think switching off distractions, communication channels in clearly defined time boxes, that is really the key for me, at least, right? Like 1 hour focus time, 30-minute communication time, totally okay. Then switch off communication, 1 hour focus time, 30-minute communication time. I don't have it 30 minutes. I just have it 15 minutes, but still, right? This focus time without communication, I think that is really, really important. And when you have a meeting, then be present. Don't do any other stuff, because multitasking is that's what causes this stress, right? I personally find that meditation helps a lot, not just because I don't know what some people think about meditation. It's like praying to Buddha and God and whatever. That has nothing to do with religion. It's just like sitting there, calming down, disconnect from the world and all the input you get, and just try to stay calm, right? And the more you are able to stay calm, it's a skill. the more you are able to deal with stress and stay calm in stressful situations, which helps you make smarter decisions and deal with the situation much better. Right? Then physical activity, I think that's awesome. When you do exercise in the morning, in the evening, whenever you want, to get back from your brain into your body, that's very helpful. And then also to really be aware which words you use in the office. When your culture is to use words that are always signaling the worst case scenario, like escalation, just the word deadline means when you hit that, then you are dead, right? And your brain cannot say, okay, they don't mean that. And they don't mean this terrible escalation that I remember back 2 years ago when I was almost fired, right? That's not possible. You have a word and it's connected to a feeling that goes instantly to your body. Then you feel like this, and then you come up with additional thoughts that are aligned with what you feel, right? And that's the constant hamster loop of thoughts and feelings that just speed that stress up. So choosing the words wisely and focus them not on abstract fear-based things, but based on what you can see, not what you interpret, what you see, right? And then try always to lead with options. What can be done, activities, instead of abstract things and then like nightmare worst case scenarios that are triggered by single words. I mean, most people, look, they are conditioned by some words, but when you open your inbox and you have from your most important client or boss or whoever, a person that typically, I don't know, blames you, screams at you, punishes you, whatever you don't like, and you just see the name or the red exclamation mark in your inbox, that instantly triggers stress in you, right? You might open this and they just say, hey, happy birthday, I forgot to congratulate you. But still this thing, it triggers you, you get stressed, no matter what's behind it, right? And disconnecting from these triggers, I think that's important when it comes to communication. And then what supports that is sports and meditation.
Yeah. And I think what you mentioned with the words, I think this is even more extensive, like the language as you support or you create in the company is really really important. I think there should be someone or maybe everyone that is taking care of that. How we communicate in the company as with the people between each other. And this brings me also to my next questions. A question: how to put the expectations in the right way, talking about response times, how we communicate. Why is this so important to have the expectation set as per team, or maybe also in the company, depends on the sides?
I mean, because then people get used to how other people behave. Your brain is basically a forecasting machine, right? We all want to be kind of certain that we know what happens. And when you set expectations well, then people feel more safe and secure because they know that you are a reliable person, or in other words, a safe harbor. I can trust this person. I can rely on that. That's no danger, right? That also helps reduce stress when people act predictively and reliably. And this is created by well-set expectations, and then people that stick to that. They do what they say, right? You can, of course, set expectations better when you have your workday well structured and well organized with time boxes, for example. Then you can say, look, when you send me an email or a message, I will typically respond within 6 hours. Right? Then they know it. And when you have a good, positive, solution-focused communication culture, then it's also an expected behavior that people know, okay, when I have a problem, I come to my boss, leader, coworker, we talk about the problem. I won't get punished. I won't get blamed. We just look at what's the problem, and then we try to find a solution, right? But it starts with yourself. If you always believe that you are the biggest failure and you don't appreciate your work and you don't appreciate you making failures and finding solutions, if you are constantly in a complain mode, then you feel that when you have a problem, you come to someone else, they complain about you, right? Because you forecast this behavior as you behave like this when you see such a problem. So it's always a mirror how others are how you feel when others communicate with you is typically the same what you would do with others. So start with yourself is typically a good idea to reduce stress.
Yeah. Last question from my side. Is there anything I can do maybe as a company owner or even as an individual to support or to get to a more supportive workplace? So we create a more environment where everyone is more supportive to each other and we get more done.
I think developing the pattern of analyzing the root cause of a problem, what exactly is the problem? And then just ask your team, how can we solve that? Instead of bouncing around with why did that happen and who is to blame, which won't help you get any solution unless you really believe the person is the problem and you need to remove the person from the team. Can also be if that happens too often, right? But really finding the problem and then trying to find solutions with your team, totally unhectic, unstressed, relaxed. I think starting with that and then make that your culture, because when you repeat it, it becomes your skill. And when you show up as a leader like this, your team will adopt it.
Yeah.
I think that's the first step.
Okay. Any remarks, things I have maybe forgotten to ask you, you would like to add?
Yes. So I can just say back in 2017, when people asked me, are you stressed? I would say, no, never. I'm not stressed at all. But when I look back, I was totally stressed. So it's really a dangerous path. Unfortunately, I also know quite a lot of people that always said, stress, burnout, that's for weak people. That's not my thing. Right? Today, they are in the clinic.
Yeah.
So looking at your situation and look at others, how they perceive you is an important thing. I cannot recommend to ignore that. I really recommend pay attention to it and try to avoid stress, because there is a lot of science around stress, right? It really kills health. It's more dangerous than smoking, than alcohol, than everything. It puts your brain constantly into fight or flight mode, fight, hide or flight, right? And when you are constantly living it, it damages your immune system, because there is no energy to fight viruses if you are constantly in stress and alert mode. So I would, with what I experience and what I know right now, I would really treat that very, very seriously.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, Manu, for your time and for your insights. And as always, we see each other next week, next cool. Q&A session.
Thank you very much. See you next week. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.